during the reset, we did some pretty big things. 2010, we signed a New START agreement, which reduced by 30% the number of nuclear weapons in the world. That's what I did in 2010. What did you do? Just kidding, because I haven't done anything since 2010. But that was a great day. That felt really tangible. And by the way, this is just not some kind of let's hold hands and have a nice piece of cake and say we had a good meeting and you know, sing kumbaya kind of marginal stuff. That's a big deal. The vice president would add an adjective to that. I'm not going to use that word, but that's the way he described it when we got it done and when we drank champagne in the Oval Office when it got ratified. Second, we opened up a supply route to Afghanistan, pretty obscure thing. I was in charge of it at the White House. It's called the Northern Distribution Network, was called that. When we got to peak capacity, about 60% of our supplies to our troops in Afghanistan eventually went through it. And it passed through Russia. It went through Russia, Central Asia. First time, I think, since World War II that U.S. soldiers were flying through Russian airspace. It was important to us because we wanted to bring the war on terrorism, not our phrase, President Bush's, but we wanted to bring that war to Pakistan. There were terrorists there. And in particular, you may remember one day in 2011, I was still at the White House. We went after one of them, Osama bin Laden, and to do that, we had to violate the sovereignty of Pakistan. And we were really scared that they would cut off our supply routes, which they had done from time to time. Had 90% of our supplies depended on Pakistan, that would have been a much more risky operation. That we got it down because of Russian cooperation made that attack possible. We got sanctions on Iran, the most comprehensive set of sanctions ever against Iran, that then created the permissive conditions for the Iran nuclear deal, which tragically our president just walked away from yesterday, but I don't think it's the end of the story. And then some other things I just like to remind people about non-events, you know, the things you didn't read about, because those are a big part of my job, most certainly when I was in the government. The biggest non-event that scared me to death, without question, was the scariest part of my time at the White House, was the color revolution in Kyrgyzstan in 2010. Now, you didn't read about it, but at the moment of it, 100 people died, the president left, 300,000 ethnic Uzbeks went into Uzbekistan, and it felt like we were on the verge of an ethnic civil war. By the way, where we had a major air base that was very important to the war effort in Afghanistan. But unlike what happens later with Ukraine or other color revolutions, this time we called up Medvedev and we said, you don't have an interest in this thing blowing up. We don't. Let's work with our different sides of this struggle to calm things down. And we did. And that non-event was a great event. We also had some economic success. We got Russia into the WTO. We increased trade. We reformed the visa regime. We got rid of Jackson Vanik. We got a 1-2-3 agreement. All that was moving in the right direction. And at the peak of the reset, 60% of you all, Americans, had a positive view of Russia, and 60% of Russians had a positive view of the United States. That was just 5 years ago, okay? That wasn't 30 years ago. That's not ancient history. That was just when I was in the government. So all of that stuff happened, all those outcomes and these data in terms of better feelings about our countries after NATO expansion, after the war in Iraq, after the Orange Revolution.